Have you ever wondered why some people can finish an entire book before you even get through the first chapter? Why certain students seem to absorb information like machines, while everyone else rereads the same sentence 5 times and still forgets it? It looks like intelligence, it looks like talent, but according to cognitive researchers, former Ivy League students, and elite academics, it's something else entirely. A hidden reading system that almost nobody talks about openly. A method so effective that many people believe it gives an unfair advantage. And once you understand how it works, you'll never read the same way again, because the truth is brutal. Most people were taught to read incorrectly from childhood. Slow, word by word, line by line, like a robot dragging chains through mud. And the worst part? They think that's normal. But elite scholars discovered something shocking years ago. Your brain was never designed to process information that way. In fact, the faster your mind engages with ideas, the easier it becomes to remember them. Which means the problem isn't your memory, it isn't your focus, it isn't even your intelligence. The real problem is the outdated reading system you've been trapped inside your entire life. There's a story about a graduate student at one of the most competitive universities in America. This guy was drowning in information, hundreds of pages every single week, scientific papers, philosophical essays, historical documents. His classmates looked exhausted all the time. Everyone was stressed, sleep-deprived, burned out. But this student kept outperforming everyone around him, calm, focused, almost relaxed. People thought he was a genius. Until one night another student caught him studying in the library and noticed something strange. He wasn't reading every word. His eyes moved differently, faster, smoother, like he was scanning patterns instead of sentences. At first it looked fake, impossible. But when they started asking questions about the material, he remembered almost everything. Details, concepts, connections, not because he had a photographic memory, but because he had trained his brain to stop reading like a child and start processing information like a strategist. That moment changed how many students around him approached learning forever. Here's what nobody tells you. Traditional reading forces your brain into a bottleneck. Every time you silently pronounce words in your head, your processing speed collapses. This is called subvocalization, and nearly everyone does it without realizing. You hear the words internally as if a narrator is trapped inside your skull. But your brain can process ideas far faster than your internal voice can speak. Think about that carefully. Your mind is capable of understanding concepts at incredible speed, yet you force it to crawl at the pace of human speech. That's like owning a supercar and driving it with the parking brake on. Elite scholars discovered that reducing subvocalization changes everything. Suddenly comprehension increases, focus improves, mental fatigue drops dramatically, and the craziest part? Most people experience this shift within days, once they learn the correct exercises. Now here's where it gets controversial. Some experts claim schools accidentally train students to become inefficient readers on purpose. Not maliciously, but systematically. Children are rewarded for reading slowly and carefully out loud. Word accuracy becomes more important than conceptual understanding. So students grow up associating slow reading with intelligence. But in high-performance academic environments, the opposite becomes true. The students who dominate aren't necessarily the ones reading carefully. They're the ones extracting patterns quickly. They look for structure, meaning, repetition, core arguments. They don't worship every sentence. They hunt for intellectual leverage. And once you realize this, you begin to understand why some people can consume 3 books in the time it takes others to finish 30 pages. One former law student explained it perfectly. He said the moment he stopped treating books like sacred objects and started treating them like systems, his entire academic life transformed. Instead of reading passively, he attacked information aggressively. Before opening any book, he scanned the table of contents, then chapter summaries, then headings, then key terms. His brain created a mental map before reading the details. That single habit alone increased his comprehension massively. Why? Because the brain loves prediction. When you already know where information is going, processing becomes easier and faster. It's the same reason movie trailers make films easier to follow. Your brain builds anticipation pathways. Elite scholars use this psychological principle constantly, and average readers almost never do. Another forbidden technique is visual chunking. This one feels almost unnatural at first. Most people read one word at a time. Elite readers train themselves to see groups of words simultaneously. Instead of processing, the scientists discovered a revolutionary formula. They absorb the entire phrase in one visual movement. This dramatically reduces eye strain and increases speed. At first, your brain resists. It feels chaotic, but after enough repetition, something incredible happens. Your eyes stop twitching mechanically across every individual word and start flowing smoothly through ideas. Reading becomes less like climbing stairs and more like sliding downhill. Faster, cleaner, more intuitive. Some people double their reading speed within weeks using this alone. And then there's the method that almost sounds ridiculous until you try it: using your finger while reading. Most adults avoid this because they think it looks childish. But neuroscientists discovered that visual tracking tools improve concentration dramatically. Your finger acts like a guide rail for your attention. It reduces regression, which is the habit of rereading lines unnecessarily. Most readers constantly jump backward without noticing. Their eyes panic and search for reassurance. But elite readers maintain forward momentum. They trust their brain to absorb context naturally. This creates rhythm, and rhythm changes focus. That's why some of the fastest readers in the world still use hand pacing techniques, despite already reading at insane speeds. But speed alone means nothing without retention. And this is where elite scholars separate themselves completely from average readers. They understand that memory is emotional. Your brain does not remember information because it is important. It remembers information because it is connected. That changes everything. Instead of memorizing isolated facts, top students build mental associations constantly. They link new ideas to stories, images, emotions, existing knowledge. One neuroscience student explained that she imagined every complex concept as a physical object inside a giant mental mansion. Ridiculous? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. Her recall rates became almost unbelievable. Because the brain evolved to remember experiences, not abstract data floating in empty space. This is also why rereading is one of the biggest productivity traps ever created. Most people reread because it feels productive. Familiarity creates comfort, but comfort is deceptive. Seeing the same sentence repeatedly gives the illusion of mastery without actual retention. Elite scholars know active recall is infinitely more powerful. Instead of rereading chapters endlessly, they close the book and force themselves to explain the concept from memory. Painful at first, extremely effective long-term. Every struggle to remember strengthens neural pathways. Your brain interprets difficulty as importance, which means the harder retrieval feels, the stronger learning becomes afterward. This single principle changed modern cognitive science forever. One medical student revealed a technique that helped her survive brutal exam seasons. Every 30 minutes, she stopped reading completely and summarized everything aloud in plain language. Not academic language, simple language, as if explaining concepts to a child. This exposed weak understanding immediately, because true comprehension is simplicity. If you cannot explain an idea clearly, you probably don't understand it deeply. Elite scholars use simplification constantly. They compress complicated theories into clear mental frameworks, and that compression dramatically improves both speed and retention simultaneously. Now let's talk about the biggest lie people believe about focus. They think concentration means forcing attention aggressively for long periods. But the human brain doesn't work like that. Elite scholars use strategic intensity instead, short periods of extreme focus, followed by deliberate recovery. Sprint, recover, sprint again. This keeps mental energy sharp instead of draining it slowly into exhaustion. Some researchers compare it to interval training for athletes. The goal is not endless effort. The goal is sustainable peak performance, which explains why many top-performing students study fewer hours than everyone else while producing better results. There's another hidden trick used by high-level academics that almost nobody outside elite circles discusses: environment engineering. Most people rely on motivation to study. Huge mistake. Elite scholars remove friction instead. They design environments that make focus automatic. Clean desk, phone hidden, specific lighting, specific music or silence, even specific scents. It sounds obsessive until you realize how much human behavior is controlled by environmental cues. Your brain constantly associates locations with habits, which means if you always scroll social media in bed, your brain links bed with distraction. But if you consistently read deeply at a dedicated desk, concentration becomes easier every single session. And then comes the strangest part of all. Many elite readers intentionally stop reading before they feel mentally exhausted. That sounds backwards, right? Most people push until their brain feels fried, but top performers protect cognitive sharpness obsessively. They understand diminishing returns. After a certain point, extra effort creates weaker retention. So instead of squeezing every drop from one session, they preserve momentum for the next. This creates consistency, and consistency beats intensity almost every time. There's a famous quote often attributed to Warren Buffett. He said, "Knowledge builds like compound interest. Tiny gains accumulate massively over time." That idea perfectly explains why speed reading systems become life-changing. Imagine reading just one extra book every month. Doesn't sound impressive, but over 10 years, that becomes over 100 books. 100 new perspectives. 100 new sets of ideas. 100 opportunities to change how you think. Most people underestimate how dramatically information exposure shapes identity over time. The people who learn faster adapt faster, and the people who adapt faster dominate nearly every field eventually. This is why elite scholars obsess over information leverage. They know knowledge compounds socially, financially, intellectually, and psychologically. A single idea from one book can change a career. A single concept can prevent years of mistakes. A single insight can completely alter someone's future, but only if that information actually enters your brain efficiently. Otherwise, books become decoration, intellectual theater, shelf trophies people buy to feel ambitious without changing anything. One former investment analyst explained that elite professionals rarely consume information passively. They interrogate it constantly. They ask questions while reading. What is the author really saying? What assumptions exist here? What patterns repeat? How does this connect to previous ideas? This transforms reading into dialogue instead of consumption. And dialogue activates deeper cognitive engagement, which increases retention dramatically. Passive readers forget. Active readers integrate. Something else separates elite scholars from average learners. They are not emotionally intimidated by difficult material. Most people encounter a confusing paragraph and immediately feel resistance, frustration, self-doubt, mental fatigue. Elite readers expect confusion temporarily. They treat it as part of the process rather than evidence of inadequacy. That emotional shift changes everything, because panic destroys comprehension. Calm curiosity improves it. The moment you stop emotionally reacting to complexity, your brain becomes far more efficient at untangling it. And here's where the real transformation begins. Eventually, reading stops feeling like work entirely. Your brain adapts. Information processing accelerates naturally. Concentration deepens automatically. Complex ideas become easier to organize mentally. Many people describe this stage almost like unlocking a hidden operating system inside their mind. They stop fearing large books, stop procrastinating difficult subjects, stop feeling overwhelmed by information overload. Because they finally understand something powerful. The human brain is astonishingly adaptable when trained correctly. But there's still one final method elite scholars use that may be the most important of all. Selective ignorance. They do not try to consume everything. This is critical. Modern culture glorifies endless information intake, infinite podcasts, infinite articles, infinite notifications. But elite thinkers protect attention ruthlessly. They choose carefully what deserves mental space, because every piece of information carries cognitive cost, and scattered attention creates shallow thinking. Deep readers understand that focus is not about saying yes to more information. It's about saying no to distractions aggressively enough that meaningful ideas can actually take root. This explains why some people consume massive amounts of content yet remain intellectually stagnant. Information alone does not create transformation. Deliberate processing does, reflection does, application does. Elite scholars pause frequently to think deeply about what they read. They connect ideas across disciplines. Psychology with business, history with politics, biology with behavior. They build networks of understanding instead of isolated trivia collections. That interconnected thinking becomes intellectual power over time. One professor described high-level learning in a fascinating way. He said the goal is not to fill the brain like a storage container. The goal is to train the brain like a prediction machine. When you deeply understand patterns, your mind begins anticipating information before it appears. This dramatically increases reading speed because comprehension becomes proactive instead of reactive. You stop decoding sentences individually and start recognizing conceptual structures instantly. That is why experts in any field can read technical material far faster than beginners. Familiarity creates predictive efficiency. And this leads to an uncomfortable realization. The gap between average performers and elite performers is often smaller than people imagine. It's not always raw intelligence. It's systems, habits, cognitive strategies repeated consistently over time, small advantages compounded daily. Most people never learn these methods because schools rarely teach them explicitly, so they assume elite scholars are simply born different. But many top performers started as completely average students before discovering how learning actually works. Imagine what happens when someone combines all these techniques together. Reduced subvocalization, visual chunking, active recall, mental mapping, environmental control, strategic focus cycles, selective information intake. Suddenly reading transforms from a slow, exhausting process into accelerated mental expansion. That's why some individuals appear superhuman academically, not because their brains are magical, but because their methods are optimized. And there's another reason this feels almost forbidden. Because once you learn rapidly, you become harder to manipulate, harder to distract, harder to control emotionally. You recognize patterns faster, you detect weak arguments quicker, you develop independent thinking. Fast learning creates intellectual confidence, and intellectual confidence changes how people move through the world. That's why throughout history, access to advanced knowledge systems was often restricted to elites. Information has always been power. Now think carefully about your own life. How many books have you avoided because they look too difficult? How many skills have you postponed learning because the process seemed overwhelming? How many opportunities disappeared simply because information moved faster than your ability to absorb it? That's the hidden cost nobody talks about. Slow learning doesn't just waste time, it limits possibility itself. The terrifying part is that modern technology is making attention spans weaker every year. Endless scrolling conditions the brain for fragmentation. Short bursts of dopamine destroy deep concentration gradually, which means the ability to read deeply and quickly may become one of the most valuable skills of the future. While everyone else fights distraction, focused learners will accumulate knowledge at exponential speed. The gap will widen dramatically. But the good news is this: your brain can change faster than you think. Neuroplasticity is real. Attention can be retrained. Reading speed can improve, comprehension can deepen, focus can strengthen. The system is adaptable, and thousands of people have already proven it repeatedly. The difference between someone who reads one book a year and someone who reads 50 is not just quantity, it's identity. One person passively consumes reality, the other actively reconstructs it. So here's the challenge. For the next 7 days, stop reading the old way. Stop worshiping slowness. Use your finger while reading. Scan structures before chapters. Practice visual chunking. Test yourself constantly with active recall. Focus intensely for shorter periods. Remove distractions aggressively. And most importantly, trust your brain more than your fear, because hidden beneath years of inefficient habits is a mind capable of learning far faster than you were ever taught to believe. The forbidden speed reading method was never really about reading faster. That's only the surface. The real secret is cognitive control, the ability to direct attention intentionally in a world designed to destroy it. And once you master that skill, books stop being obstacles. They become weapons, gateways, multipliers. Every page becomes another advantage most people will never claim, because they still believe intelligence is fixed instead of trained. And maybe that's the greatest illusion of all. The smartest people in the room are not always the ones born gifted. Sometimes they are simply the ones who learned how to learn before everyone else did.